So we're going to start by introducing ourselves. My name is Kate. I'm going to be moderating this conversation. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm one of the co-chairs for the conference this year, and I'm currently studying health services research. I'm in my fourth year at UNB.
My name is Denisha Coelho. My pronouns are she, her. I am in my third year of kinesiology, and my position on the Girls STEM Up exec team is I'm one of the logistics chairs. So, yeah.
My name is Kristen. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm in my third year of computer science, and I'm one of the speakers chairs on the Girls STEM Up conference.
My name is Amy. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm currently in my fourth year of kinesiology, and I am one of the university delegates chairs this year.
Awesome. So our first question for our wonderful panelists today is, what made you decide to pursue a degree in STEM? And maybe we'll start with Amy.
I was always really interested in the sciences in high school. At my high school, you could kind of take the arts or the sciences, so we had to pick pretty early on, and I was doing better in the sciences, so I took those in high school, and I just became really interested in learning how things work. I also knew that I wanted to work with people, do research on rehab plans, and sciences seemed the best way to get there.
As a child, I've always been very interested in like how things work and why things work this way. And then as I grew older, I became an athlete, and then I kind of realized how interesting the human body is, and there are so many things that go on within it, and I really just wanted to know why things happen and how they happen. And so I knew like STEM would answer all of my questions. So I was like, that's like the perfect thing for me to do.
So I didn't really know what I wanted to do in high school, so I took almost every possible stream that I could. I took all the sciences, I took business classes, and I took computer science classes, and I wasn't a fan of the sciences, so I decided to try computer science and do a minor in business since I preferred those two out of all the classes that I took in high school. So that's kind of why I decided to go into computer science. Awesome, super cool. Our next question for our panelists is, we'd like to hear a bit about what you plan to do with your degrees in STEM. So what are your career aspirations and how are you going to get there? And I think Denisha and Amy are going to answer that for us today.
There are a lot of things that I want to do, and I haven't decided yet. I know how to get there. So one of the things that I want to pursue is my master's in biomedical engineering, and possibly specialize in prosthetics and artificial intelligence. So for that, I know I need to get quite a bit of research experience. It's not compulsory, but it will be very beneficial for my master's in just any master's program that I would eventually get into. And it's also beneficial for me to like look into and volunteer into companies that like make prosthetics and stuff like that. So that's for biomedical engineering. But then if I do want to go to med school, there's a whole list of other things that you would need to do is like get volunteering experience and patient care experience and take a lot of classes like organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, biochemistry that would help you for the MCAT, and you would need to prepare for the MCAT in order to get into med school. So yeah.
Those are two really great career paths. And Amy, go ahead.
I'm also in a similar boat of I'm kind of split of where I want to go. Next year, I'll be doing a Master's of Science in Kinesiology with a focus in exercise physiology. And to do that, I've been doing an honors, which is essentially a mini research thesis in my last year of my bachelor's. And to get into master's, which will hopefully lead to a PhD in medical research, I've been doing a lot of volunteering in a few different labs on campus and kind of patient care volunteering just to get involved and see what the different opportunities are. Similar to Denisha, med school is also one of the options I'm hoping to keep open. So I've been doing a lot of volunteering for that and hoping that my research experience will kind of transition over there. And my end goal is to work in kind of rehabilitation and improving rehab plans for spinal injuries and spinal deformities. So either with a PhD or going to med school, I'm hoping to work in that field, but we'll see. That's one of the things about STEM is you don't necessarily have to know what you want to do because there's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, for sure. There are so many options, and those are really great ones. But like so many things that you could do for sure. So the next question I have is what is the most challenging thing about your degree program and how are you overcoming that? And Kristen and Amy are going to answer that question. Yeah, so I don't think I would pinpoint a specific thing that was more challenging, but I do think the entire degree has been a bit of a challenge. Sometimes you just get a little stuck on an assignment or something, and I think it's really important to know that like there's so many people at UMB that are there to help you, and that if you are having a difficult time on something, that you can go to the math learning center or you can go to peer tutors, or they have even just going to the professor and asking for help rather than just trying to figure it out on your own when you can't. It's just sometimes impossible to do. So it's always good to go and get help before you are stuck. Yeah, that's great advice.
I think one of the things I found most challenging is I didn't realize how interdisciplinary almost everything in the STEM field is until I got to university. So in kinesiology, I thought we would be doing a lot of human anatomy and human physiology, which we do, but there's also physics and chemistry and organic chemistry and biomechanics. And if you continue with biomechanics, that leads to computer coding, and there's also the sociology aspect and the psychology aspect. So you kind of have to learn a little bit about a bunch of different disciplines and then combine it all together to look at the human body and human motion. And that's something that you do progressively throughout the degree, but it was definitely a bit of a challenge to get used to learning so many different things and then having to combine them together.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Amy, how did you manage that? Like, how are you figuring out the interconnectedness of STEM?
I learned to pick a few things that interested me the most and stick to learning more about those. Also study groups, talking to older students, and not being afraid to go and ask your profs and say, hey, how does this relate? There's a few times I've had to go up to a prof in office hours and ask them to tell me how they got from talking about physiology to talking about computer coding and biomechanics. So probably just not being afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Great. Okay, our next question is for Denisha. And this is what is your most memorable experience during your degree so far, or something notable that you've experienced in STEM?
I have two
Yeah.
actually. So one is what I'm going through right now is I'm doing research with Dr. David Scott. And it's been really interesting because he's really established in his field, which is sports psychology, and he's a sports psychologist for an NHL team. And getting to do research under him in the same field, it's given me a lot of exposure and as well as a lot of responsibility. And I get to learn so many things from him, and he's really cool. So that's been great. And another memorable experience would be doing the practicum in kinesiology, is where you get to do an athletic therapist or a strength and conditioning coach practicum for a REDS team on campus, and you get to apply all of the knowledge that you learn in class, and it's so hands-on and you learn so much and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, those two have possibly been like the best for now.
Mhm. Yeah, those are super cool experiences. And I know like so many other people in their respective fields also say that the like experiential learning part of the degree is definitely something to look forward to. My next question is for Kristen. What do you wish someone would have told you before entering STEM? So one thing that I wish somebody would have told me before entering STEM is that you don't need to know what you want to do when you come to university or when you pick a degree, because there's so many options within STEM, and each discipline within STEM, you can go so many different directions that even if you think you know what you want to do, you probably will end up changing your mind, or maybe it'll validate that you chose the right thing. But there's so many different ways that you can go, and you can always change if you decide you don't like it. So just you don't worry about not knowing what you want to do. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good advice. And sometimes is the most intimidating thing about starting a degree in STEM is like figuring out where it ends up. But there are so many different routes. Okay, so the last couple of questions that we have are for all of our panelists to answer. The first one is, what do you enjoy about your degree, or what cool things do you learn about?
Um, I think something that I enjoy the most, and also which is why I uh, chose kinesiology and just in general a major in STEM, was that it's very practical. And I like that's how things like work in my brain, is how when I know why and how things work. So just in kinesiology, being able to apply all of my knowledge in my practicum or whether it's research, and just like in your day-to-day life. So that's been something that I enjoy the most, is just being able to use all the knowledge and apply it and get hands-on experience.
So for me, I think the most interesting or things that I enjoyed the most were taking electives and being able to choose what I wanted to learn. And one of the electives that I was able to take was human computer interaction, which I'm in right now. And I find it very, very cool because I always thought computer science was mostly coding, but to be able to see how humans and computers actually interact, I think that's really interesting and something that you wouldn't necessarily think about. So,
Yeah, that sounds like a super cool course.
Amy?
I think what I've enjoyed the most is probably doing my honors and getting to be involved in certain like exercise-based clinical trials as they're going on and just being involved in the research process. And as Sunisha said with kinesiology, just seeing how practical it is and actually seeing some of the things I'm learning in classes make differences in people's health in short trials that I've been there to see them at the beginning of and the end. And I think that's something really cool, or I guess that's been my favorite part so far of my degree.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that research was underrated when I first started. Like, I don't think it was hyped up enough as it should have been. And
Yeah.
I'm also very passionate about research. So those are all great answers. Okay, our next question is, what are some initiatives or programs that you're involved with that support and promote women at STEM? And this is specific to UNB because all of our panelists are from UNB, but they're all involved in some super cool things. So I'll let you guys take it away.
I'll start for this one, I
Yeah,
guess.
sure.
So I guess we're all involved in the Girls STEM Up conference, which is to try and encourage more girls to get involved in STEM moving forward. Apart from that, I'm also an exec on the Reaching Higher conference, which is kind of opening up different research opportunities that are going on campus and in the Maritimes to all students. I'm also a student ambassador and a peer mentor in my faculty, and with that, I've been working to start a program that is nicknamed Peers on Careers right now, which is upper year students trying to give first, second, and third years some advice and mentoring moving forward with how to apply for grad schools, what opportunities are from starting in STEM, and how to transition out of that somewhere else. And that's just a project that I'm really passionate about right now to help that knowledge translation from older students to younger students.
Super cool. Those are all really great groups to be involved with. Denisha, you can go next if you'd like.
Just like Amy said, GSU, that's like the biggest. But other than that, I am the co-president of a society on campus. And in that, our whole exec team is actually all women, and that was not planned, but we are like 15 women in that. So it's been really nice just to be able to promote women and also supporting women in it. Another cool thing that is currently still in the works is that I am starting a publication for kinesiology, in which it's basically meant to highlight student research, because once you like do your research and do your honors, it kind of really doesn't go anywhere. But I know a lot of people who are really interested in reading about people's research and just faculty research as well. So yeah, that's something that I'm really excited for as well.
Yeah, that's super cool. And is it the Psych Society that you're involved with? That's all
Yeah.
women? Yeah,
Yeah.
super cool. Awesome. And Kristen, what about you?
So like they said, the Girls STEM Up conference, as well as I'm on the Women in Computer Science book club. So we meet about every 2 weeks to once a month, and we read just one book for the year, and it's about gender bias, and it's specifically in data collection. And I've found it great. I don't really like reading too much during the school year, but just the chats that we have, and we sometimes talk for hours at random things that relate to the book, but it's just like the conversation goes so many different ways, and it's a great way to meet other girls in computer science as well as alumni and graduate students. So it's a great little group.
That's awesome. That sounds like so much fun. And is one of maybe the lesser known groups for women in STEM on campus. So super cool. This is our last and final question. But what advice would you give to someone specifically like girls or gender minorities who are interested in learning more about STEM or considering pursuing a degree in STEM? And you can all take a shot at this, but Kristen, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is going to a conference like Girls STEM Up, where you can learn more about STEM and meet women in the programs and working in STEM. I think that's great to look up to, as well as getting involved in university. I know in my first year I didn't get involved too much, but I wish I would have. It's a great way to meet people, make friends, and like just give you something to do other than school because sometimes it's hard to just be focused on school all the time. So getting involved in clubs and societies is a great way to meet friends and different people. So it's great.
The biggest advice I think I would give is that you don't have to stick to one like choice the once you like go into STEM. I mean, just giving you my example, like I love engineering and I love neuroscience and I love psych and I love kinesiology. So involved in everything and I'm making it happen. And I know that if I can, like anybody can. So you don't really have to just pick one thing and stick to it. You can be interested in a bunch of things and you can be involved in all of those things. And another thing would be is that don't be afraid to start. It's never too early. You can start literally your first year, your first semester. And just like Kristen said, I wasn't very involved in my first semester, and I so wish I was because it would have been much more cooler than it is now. But yeah, just don't be afraid to get involved, and you can be interested in anything and everything that you want.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And Amy, what about you?
I'm going to follow up with Denisha's Don't Be Afraid. On top of that, don't be afraid to go after opportunities, to talk to professors, to talk to older students, to apply for opportunities. The worst thing that can happen is you get an email saying, no, we don't need anybody right now. But you're never going to be handed an opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with going after them. There's nothing wrong with emailing your profs and saying, hi, I loved the paper that you wrote on this. Can I volunteer in your lab? In STEM, it's a lot about building connections and networking, and that's what conferences like Girls STEM Up are amazing for. But in your classes, don't be afraid to talk to your profs, talk to the master's students, talk to anybody you can, and start to learn what other people are getting involved in and what research they're doing. And then you might be able to get involved early as well and find what interests you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you all so much for sharing your ideas and experiences with us. I learned a lot from you, so I hope that future students or current students who are watching this learn as much as well. We're so excited to be hosting Girls STEM Up on March 18th, 2023 at the Fredericton Convention Center and hope to see everybody there to learn a lot more about opportunities for women in STEM. Yes, thank you so much for tuning in.